Bună ziua, bună ziua! Știu că este foarte bună cafeaua de la croitoria de cafea adusă de partenerul nostru pe energie, Bepco. O să vă rugăm încet să reveniți în sală pentru că începem următorul panel. Soon it will start the mobility panel. And I want to introduce you our moderator. Raluca Fischer a fondat în 2009 asociația Green Revolution, primul ONG românesc de ecologie urbană, care implementează măsuri ce stau la baza construirii unui oraș verde. Green Revolution a dezvoltat și operează sistemul de bike sharing 100% românesc, iVelo, în București și în alte orașe din România, inclusiv în Brașov. Ea a ocupat funcția de președinte a Alianței Mondiale pentru Ciclism, lucrând la nivel european și global, pentru ca mai mulți oameni să circule mai des cu bicicleta, în condiții mai bune și mai sigure în întreaga lume. În cele două mandate de vicepreședinte a Federației Europene de Ciclism, a contribuit la prioritizarea ciclismului în agenda politică. Expertă în management strategic și economie circulară, ea coordonează proiecte de CSR și promovare de mai bine de 15 ani. În calitate de managing partner, în 2007 a lansat și revista Green Report, care este și partenerul nostru media, practic prima organizație media din România pe teme de business și legislație de mediu. De asemenea, este responsabilă pentru dezvoltarea și punerea în aplicare a afacerilor, strategii de comunicare, legătura cu partenerii și rețelele strategice, inclusiv cu guvernele, industria, societatea civilă, precum și pentru asigurarea finanțării organizației neguvernamentale. Sunt sigură că mulți dintre dumneavoastră o cunoașteți, dacă nu, aveți acum ocazia, doamna Raluca Fischer, președinte Asociația Green Revolution.
Bună ziua! Sper că cafeaua a fost suficient de tare, dacă nu vă promit că această sesiune despre mobilitate va fi ca un espresso. Scurtă, dar foarte puternică din punct de vedere al informațiilor, al ideilor și sper foarte tare să vă inspire. Am plăcerea să fiu, cred că a treia oară pe scena FOV-ului și în prima dată vreau să mulțumesc și să felicit municipiul Brașov, pe primarul Coliban și toată echipa care a făcut posibil acest proiect, care deja este o tradiție la nivel național și care este un model de bună practică de a deschide calea dialogului. Pentru că fără a învăța unii de la alții, fără a învăța de ce nu merge bine sau ce poate să meargă bine, nu putem să mergem înainte. Vorbeau antevorbitorii mei în panelul de dimineață despre importanța de a genera noutăți și pe plan local, este adevărat. Dar foarte important este să învățăm și din lecțiile altor state și să nu reinventăm roata, pentru că nu e așa, cel puțin bicicleta are deja mai mult de 200 de ani de când a fost inventată și nu trebuie foarte mult schimbată, puțin adaptată. Deci, cum spuneam, vorbim despre mobilitate astăzi și avem un panel extrem de interesant. O să trec pe engleză pentru că majoritatea sunt invitați de afară, ceea ce este iar lăudabil că reușim la FOV să aducem atâția speakeri internaționali cu atâta experiență. Așadar, am să-i rog să se alăture pe scenă alături de mine și o iau în ordine cu Ivo Cre, directorul de politici și de proiecte al Polis, venit din Belgia pentru noi. Polis este o forță adevărată la nivel european când vorbim despre cum să facem politici și proiecte și cum putem să schimbăm legislație la nivel european, ceea ce este extrem de important. Andy Clark, director de strategie Tool Design, venit din Statele Unite, nu că ar fi cei mai mari bicicliști, dar sunt competitivi și învățăm de la el cu siguranță astăzi despre lucruri bune sau mai puțin bune care se pot face și ce putem învăța. Din România, Ana Maria Marinescu Pălăuș, vicepreședinta Reper 21, mă bucur că e alături de noi. Și Dejan Kneck, deputy mayor, adică viceprimarul orașului Ljubljana, alături de noi, pentru că nu e așa, nu numai că avem de învățat foarte mult, dar sperăm că și Velocity va ajunge la un moment dat și în Brașov, zic eu. Cum vedem, nu suntem doar femei și bărbați aici, pentru că dacă vorbim de mobilitate, un lucru foarte important pentru noi este de a pune omul în centrul planificării noastre. Iar omul nu are doar două genuri, azi învățăm că poate să aibă până la 28, whatever, feel free, dar poate în același timp să fie bătrân, poate să fie tânăr, poate să aibă dizabilități. Și întrebarea este cum trebuie să ne pregătim orașele ca să facă față nevoilor tuturor. Și pentru aceasta și ce urmează la nivel european ca obligații, îl rog pe Ivo Cre de la Polis să înceapă prezentarea. Mulțumesc!
Hello, good afternoon. I'm one of the 4 people standing between your lunch and good information. I'll be, I don't know if you see the full screen. Yeah, okay. I will talk about the importance of planning for mobility, an importance that's not only instrumental for success, but also in the next years will become a European requirement for at least 35 cities in Romania that are positioned on the Trans-European network. So it's an important information from Brussels that might change your daily practice in mobility in your city. I'm working for a network of about 120 cities and regions working on urban mobility innovation. And I must say I'm delighted to be invited also for this meeting, for this conference. It's been very interesting. We hope to welcome also more Romanian members in our network. So if you're interested in that, please talk to me about that. We've talked about several transitions in the past days, urban development, energy, and urban mobility is set within that broader series of transitions that need coordination. And the challenge is to do this fast, so we might even talk about a shift and not only about just a transition, but a real speedy shift. And this is set in a framework where we look, of course, at climate neutrality. We have, as a continent, a target for that, to become climate neutral. And there are 112 cities working on a speedier climate neutrality agenda. We've heard about that also in the past days. So that really sets also the framework for a lot of ambitious action in the field of urban mobility. But of course, climate is not the only objective cities want to serve. There are also aspects of quality of life, of accessibility and mobility, making it possible for people to reach the destinations they need to reach for work, for education, for leisure, for economic activity. That is currently pursued by the 15-minute city ideal, the idea that we live in neighborhoods and cities where there is a proximity of these destinations, where you can buy food in a close distance, where your kids can go to school or can go to childcare not too far away. And that concept of proximity planning also translates into regional mobility planning, where we talk about the 45-city region. The urban mobility transition as such also is a big box of smaller or in itself big transitions, but many different shifts. And we have taken this approach, saying, okay, we need a motor shift, we need new types of propulsion, other vehicles. We need to shift our investments in that direction. We need to shift the risk. Too many pedestrians, cyclists are killed in traffic. Too many old people and young children are killed in traffic. That risk has to be changed. We need to change the modal share, the space use, but also the cost that comes with being mobile could be a factor in these transitions. So what do cities do to respond to these questions and to make these changes possible? A very important aspect is local targets and local plans. And I put a couple of examples here on the screen where cities like Gothenburg, Leuven, etc., London, Budapest, where they say we have really clear targets of a modal shift in the next years, where we want to increase the use of public transport, and not only the use, but also the overall share of public transport, of cycling, and we want to go to, for instance, for Gothenburg, 35% of walking and cycling for certain kinds of journeys. And we'll hear later in the panel, I guess, also for Ljubljana about similar targets. So this kind of goal, the climate ambition translated in concrete mobility targets, that's very essential. An important portfolio for us in our project activity, but also in our members' mobility shift, is the energy shift in mobility. So we work a lot on electric vehicles, on some other fuel types that are being tested or deployed, pushing also on the European agenda of creating the shift for heavy-duty vehicles, for cars, for buses in that regard, but also making sure that cities are involved in the deployment of the necessary energy infrastructures and charging assets that are needed to accomplish that. What is very important in mobility, and that's maybe different than the other sectors that have been discussed in the conference, is that we are also looking at restricting, at trying to regulate access through parking measures, to low emission zones, to access regulations. It's also my topic in the organization. We are working on that in several ways, but it's also a very important aspect. It brings money to the city also. For instance, for parking policies, it can create a lot of revenue, while at the same time creating really a better space experience, but also servicing the car drivers by giving them a clear offer where to park their cars. And that all makes that in the end, we are talking not only about the traffic flow and getting as much as vehicles or passengers through certain corridors, but we start to think also about the importance of the destination, where people arrive, where people want to stay, where people want to experience the city, asking different questions also, for instance, like how do we manage heat in a heat wave in these locations, which are also sometimes very much influenced by traffic movement, by the way we organize traffic space. So cities bring all these measures together in a sustainable urban mobility plan. And what you see on this screen is the cycle, the planning cycle, which I will come back to, but it's a European endorsed approach of how cities plan their mobility. I have to move a bit, I have to speed up a bit. The EU is pushing that concept of sustainable urban mobility plans as part of a much bigger policy. And I will, in the next slide, explain the cascade of policies that the European Union is developing, and that in the ends in our streets, in our city streets, where we try to make life better for our citizens. So the basic legislation, the basic concept for our continent is the European Green Deal, the EU Green Deal, which also sets the framework for the energy policies that have been discussed in the previous session, where we want to go to net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050. And that document is then the basis, I won't go into too much detail, but it's the basis for a strategy on smart and sustainable mobility, which also then translates into an urban mobility framework. And that's a document. It's quite an easy read if you want to check it, about 20 pages, that sets out the European ambition for our urban mobility. And it sets measures forward that really help the climate targets, that also help countries to develop policies that can help cities. So we are always in a context where the European Union talks to member states, and then the member states talk to cities. But that is changing through very important legislation. The European Union is changing its approach with regards to the international accessibility of Europe, the Trans-European Network for Transport policy. It's basically a map of Europe where corridors have been drawn, basic strategic infrastructures for maritime, air, but also for land transport, rail, road, and also the connectors of all these modes. And what's important for us, and for us in the room, is that these connectors, the nodes on the network, are in most cases, in almost all cases, cities or urban areas. And the Commission has said, or the Union has said, that the network, the basic network, has to be ready by 2030. That's basically tomorrow. So we are at the point that the links are important, but that the crossroads of where the corridors meet and where the network intersects, that becomes very important for the performance of our European mobility system. These urban nodes, so the white dots on the map, they are of course also important because it's there where local traffic and regional and international traffic coincides, where it has to work together. And it's for that purpose that the Commission has suggested to make 424 cities on the network, or urban areas on the network, urban nodes, urban crossroads on the network, that would have certain requirements. It means you have to make a plan of how you want to organize traffic and mobility in these nodes. The idea is to measure a couple of very basic indicators, and also to work on an intermodal interchange for passengers, so a railway bus station, let's say, but also for freight, so that in the next decade and a half, international shippers of goods know what to expect at the end of the road when they enter an urban node, but also for international travelers, that they understand how the long-distance journey connects with the local mobility system. So this is currently being discussed. Normally it should be confirmed early next year, and it's super important because it's really going to create a dynamic around planning, around urban mobility, intermodality, also thinking of all these objectives I have mentioned about climate neutrality, but also citizen satisfaction and the idea that we like the mobility system of the city we live in. This is an example of how Eindhoven approaches this. They recognize that for the longer distance you need cars and trucks, but the closer you get to the city center or to the neighborhood core, let's say, we will rely on walking and cycling, and public transport as an important connector there as well. So this idea, this kind of planning where we say, okay, we are trying to bring a modal focus to the urban areas, we are planning and building in that framework, and also try to work on behavior of the traffic participants in that regard. Will it be easy? No, it won't be easy. There are a couple of important barriers. I think an important question is the kind of vehicles that come to our streets. It's a big challenge for cities, but also for the industry sector as such. We heard the question about the raw materials in the previous discussion. I mean, you can almost, I think 2 of these beauties on the screen can power a bus probably. So it's really about that kind of ratio of proportionality of material use that we are talking about. But this is of course also the kind of vehicles that the industry brings to us, put serious questions towards the way we work with public space, where we allow vehicles. So it's really a big issue. And yeah, we can talk more about that, but it's a very important factor. The other issues I bring are a bit more governance related. It's to find a place for the mobility plan in the overall planning concept. This is a non-EU example, so it's from the UK, where the little red square in the bottom is the mobility plan for the Yorkshire region. And the other boxes are all kinds of planning instruments, our planning instruments, laws, regulations, other plans, institutions that deal with managing the territory there of the urban area around Leeds. So that's the challenge we have as mobility professionals. We have to push above our weight, you say in English, I think. We have to make sure that our plan is seen as a strategic element of a bigger climate neutrality scheme. Other challenge is the knowledge gap between public and private sector. This is, you don't have to read the graph, but this is something we checked for digital skills in public and private sector, where the green is positive and the red and orange and blue is not so positive. And you see that the private sector is much more ready and able to work with digital skills in mobility, more prepared than the public sector. Working with citizens and also discussing mobility at this moment is becoming much more polarized, and that's really a big challenge. It's an easy target for populist thought and for unreasonable argumentation, and people don't take compromises in many cases. So that's also really in a planning context where we are working on plans that go 7, 10 years ahead. That's really a big challenge. I think that's a really big problem. And finally, also returning to the discussions we had also yesterday in the different sessions, but also in the mayor's voices discussion. There's really an issue of the cooperation between institutions. I could have shown a lasagna, but I showed a layer cake. I'm a sweet tooth rather than an, yeah, anyway, let's not go there. But the idea that there's a real issue with getting organized around these topics is very important. And I think the Brasov example with a very early establishment of a metropolitan transport authority with Katalin as the lead there is an important factor to make these things connect, and it's that kind of solutions that we need. So we discuss these things also in our network. We meet in Leuven end of November. So happy to welcome you there, and I'm also here to discuss further. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ivo. So absolutely, you just came from Brussels to tell us that we have new obligation, that it will be a lot, there will be a lot of challenges, many barriers, it will not be easy, and actually we don't also have the money for this. So which is the good part of the whole story at the end? Which are the opportunities for the cities and where they can find help?
There are a couple of positive sides. The first
I was hoping for the cake part, you know?
And that's also why we are for the approach. I think the first thing is that the cities become part of the governance, so they cannot be overruled. They cannot be overflooded with concrete, to put it in concrete terms. The fact that suddenly an infrastructure would land on your city to build an international network, that is out of the question now. The idea is to have co-creation of the urban nodal mobility system. So that's important. Also for cities that are sometimes in conflict with the national government, normally this should protect them from that approach. The money, that's another discussion. That's the next fight. We are in Brussels starting the discussion on the new funding period, 2028-2035. We'll be very old in 2035, all of us, but so that's the next fight, and the idea of the Commission is to link the priorities that are mentioned in the legal text for the urban nodes, to link that to concrete funding opportunities. And that funding can come from Connecting Europe facility. It can also be part of the cohesion funds, where there is also an envelope for transport and for Trans-European network. And also from other instruments, EIB, EBRD, all these the banks could also step in. But so that's the big fight we have to fight now. And I think one of the challenges is also that we talk about integrated projects. We want energy, transport, digital projects to happen in one go. But the way the European Commission is organizing the funds is siloized, so we have transport, digital and energy. There is a bit of room for these kind of synergies between the three, but that's also a battle we are trying to fight, to say, okay, when we build something for transport, we also want it to have energy infrastructures included. We want or green and blue infrastructures. How do we bring that together? So we're not alone in that fight. We have other networks as well. So that's. But the idea is that the urban nodes thematic priorities like the interchange, but also the planning support, that would be partly funded from the European side.
Thank you so much. So the message to the cities are get involved, get the knowledge, co-create it, and be there from the beginning and understand the whole dynamic of the whole situation.
And check the list of cities that is about to become an urban node, because there are cities who are not aware.
And where they can find the information.
It's part of the legal text, but normally it's available. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. I saw the picture of Franz Timmermann in your presentation, and he was at the CIE event, the Cycling Industry Europe event, like 2 years ago, like yelling to the public that this 90% decarbonization of the urban transport is not possible without the bike, and the bike is the future of transportation when we talk about urban planning. I'm happy to have from the US and not from the European Commission, Andy Clark, Director of Strategy Tool Design. I'm very looking forward to see how you see the full potential of mobility, and especially the sustainable one.
Well, thank you, and thank you to the organizers, the city, to Nicoletta, Bogdan, and the team for the opportunity to be here. As others have said, this is a beautiful city, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you to the translators, the interpreters, whose job I see getting increasingly difficult as the clock ticks down and the speakers speak faster and faster to get through their material. I will try and keep at an even level. So I grew up in England and moved to the US in 1988, and I was briefly the Secretary General of the European Cyclists Federation when that was an all-volunteer organization, no staff, so a long way from where the organization is today. And I confess I come with no European programs, blueprints, formulas, covenants, or funding programs or anything like that. So you'll see my message is a little simpler perhaps. I've been doing this long enough to know that the reasons why active transportation, why bicycling is a good thing, the list is endless. It relates to every element of policy that mayors and cities have to address. And so there is always a good reason to be promoting active transportation. And I would imagine that every city of every mayor that's represented here today has these policies as their goal: high quality of life, climate protection, equality, equity, and active transportation is at the core of all of those things. So if you are going to be a green city or an energy city or a healthy city or a safe city, active transportation needs to be at the core of your policies and programs. The US is not a good example to follow. We are a terrible country when it comes to sustainability, and our cities are far from sustainable. So the lessons that I share with you today are from the mistakes that we have made and not from the good examples that we have to share. This was considered for a long time to be an aspirational approach to transport policy of mixing cyclists and traffic together, and no one wants to do it. So do not learn from the way we have done things, learn from our mistakes. And I know that we share the same inspirations, and the best practices and the knowledge transfer needs to come from the places where you can see large numbers of people cycling and walking and taking public transport. That is Denmark, that is the Netherlands, and we should not be shy about taking their examples and applying them to the Romanian context, to other contexts. There is a reason why people choose to walk and cycle and take public transport in cities in the Netherlands and Denmark and other parts of Europe in large numbers. It's because it is the quickest, the cheapest, the safest, the most accessible, the most aspirational, the most practical means of getting around. And until that is true in Romanian cities, it will be a challenge to see the level of cycling and walking increase. So, what lessons do I have to share? I think you will see there are themes emerging throughout the last 3 days that will be reflected in these lessons. Number one, the city scale is obviously the best level of government to address active transportation issues. In the US, our states or provinces, I guess the development regions that Romania has, are too big. They are our biggest challenge. Our national government is very fickle. It changes direction wildly. So at the moment, we have a very good transport minister. He used to be the mayor of a city. He understands transport issues. The previous administration, not so good. It changes wildly. So cities are the best place, the best level of government to address active transportation. And setting those targets that Ivo and others have talked about is a really critical responsibility and driver of policy and change. You can see the US cities are terrible. Our level of car use for journeys to work is at above 90% in a lot of US cities. So that is not aspirational. Many of our cities have as a goal to get to 50%, which they consider wild and unimaginable. But you can see for Utrecht, you are at 18%. Bucharest, the research I did said it was at 36%. I find that a little hard to believe. And if it is true, it speaks to the oversized impact of traffic on quality of life, because it feels like much higher than that. But establishing a target and holding yourself accountable to reach that target is a critical thing for mayors and for cities to do. And you do that in the context of a vision that you should hold every project accountable towards. So if you say you have, as Brussels has, a mobility plan that is about green infrastructure, about social connections, about creating a pleasant quality of life and healthy communities, every project you invest in needs to reflect those goals, and Brussels is now doing that. And since 2020, there is a transformation underway. I understand that is changing the face of the city of Brussels, particularly the center. And even though there's opposition at first, people now are coming to realize this is a good answer. So have the courage to act on your vision and hold yourself accountable to the goals that you have, and don't do things that will not meet those goals and that vision and those targets. It seems simple to say, but countless US cities have a terrific plan with all the right language, and then you look at the things that they spend money on, and it's a completely different list of things. So don't follow the path of the US as your cities change and grow, and the opportunity to remake our cities is in front of us. As the funding is there to make changes, do not believe that cars animate the public space, that you need cars to create life and activity in cities. Do not believe that widening roads eases congestion and makes life better. Do not believe that cars are an equitable solution in the transportation sector. It simply isn't true, and we are learning at our cost that is a challenge. Do not go down that path. As you in Romania invest in infrastructure, it does not have to look like this. There are a lot more humane and people-centered ways to do this work. And fortunately, improving conditions for walking and biking are not rocket science. My business, I work for a consulting firm that wants you to think that it is complicated and you need our expertise to create the right conditions for bicycling and walking, but in fact it's very simple. this is a place where you can, I think, imagine yourself walking and cycling with your children, with your older grandparents or whomever, because it's a safe, comfortable, attractive place to ride a bike. It is not that hard to do that, and it turns out it is quite easy to get that wrong. Something else we've learned, and certainly have learned from European cities, is that you want to make big changes quickly. In the US, we would say you want to rip the Band-Aid off in one go, rip the plaster off in one go, get all the pain over with first and quickly. We've seen that going back 30, 40 years to cities like Delft and Groningen in the Netherlands, to Seville and Pontevedra in Spain, these days talking about Brussels and Paris, where major changes in infrastructure have created a major change in behavior, and it's really important to make those big changes quickly to have the greatest impact, and because we have no time to waste. In the cycling world, that means building connected networks, not just individual bits of infrastructure here and a cycle path there and a cycle path through the park that doesn't connect to anything. It's connecting. It's connecting on main roads, through the intersections and junctions, across major barriers, so that people can actually get to the places they need to go. It seems really simple, and it seems awkward to say it, but I think it still needs to be said in many cities. And the network needs to be accessible for people of all ages and abilities. Again, we are creating a community for everyone, where everyone needs to feel involved and able to use the system. And it will be difficult, as others have said, even though we know what to do and we know the money is there and the technical knowledge is there, it's still hard to make these transitions. So connecting active transportation and cycling and walking to the bigger issues of safety and health and climate is a really important thing to do, and helping people understand their contribution, the things that they're doing, why it will benefit them, and why their behavior will benefit the city, is a critical role for mayors and cities to play. Last of my 10 items is please have the courage to act. Believe in your, you will notice there's no science or data, no research formula, no quantum physics to consider here. This is politics. This is having the courage to make big decisions, to change the way your community looks and feels. We know cities across Europe have done that. There is no time to waste. We have to act on and creating active transportation networks in cities. So even though that's all been kind of a campaign speech, I do have 5 very practical tools that, again, seem really simple, but in the US and I think in Romania, some of these things can make a big difference very easily. This is the simple part. Bollards that go up and down are magical. I mean, all the technology and technological solutions that we've seen to solve connectivity and all the other issues on the table, it seems to me that just managing the flow of traffic and creating more livable, walkable, bikeable places, more human-centered places by using the technology of bollards that go up and down to protect areas seems like a very worthwhile thing to do more of. A very similar, very simple, very straightforward thing to do, which again seems odd to even say, but I think it's very noticeable when you go to countries where there's lots of cycling and walking, where car traffic is minimal and low speed. It's because of infrastructure like this that encourages slow speeds and prioritizes cycling and walking in a very real sense. Protective, no, I don't mean those protective devices. I mean the protection from cars that is real, that creates that space where people want to walk and bicycle. I couldn't resist taking this picture in Bucharest earlier this week, where there's a a poster, an advertisement that is being, is there a pointer on the, oh no, there isn't. The bike lane in this picture clearly needs the ZICLA barriers to prevent cars from driving in it. Like I said, this is not difficult to do. E-bikes, definitely the future. We've talked a lot about e-bikes and electric vehicles, but they seem less prevalent in Romania than other parts of Europe. We should anticipate their continued growth, and they are a game changer in terms of equity and access and the practicality of cycling. Last thing is anything you can do to reclaim space for people and to challenge the dominance of the motor vehicle, I think is a benefit to becoming a green city. And there are many, many different ways of doing that, through permanent, through temporary, through pilot installations, a lot of different ways to do that. So in summary, what do I have to say? Whoop, here we go. So you cannot call yourself a green city without active transportation and a high level of active transportation at the core of your transport and mobility sector. We know what to do to achieve that. We know that we have no time to waste and we must act fast. We cannot afford to act gradually any longer. The time just isn't there to do it. And the U.S. is not, there is no city in the U.S. that would be a good example for you to follow on this path. I'll give a quick plug for the technical information that is available for those of you who want to do more in this area. The Velo City Conference, which was, of course, in Ljubljana last year, is an excellent forum for that. And there is an international trails conference for long distance, particularly for long distance trails, the kind of Eurovelo type project in Ottawa in Canada next year as well, where there's an opportunity to learn more about these topics. So with that, I will thank you and pass the microphone.
So much. Thank you, Andy. So I'll give you an ultimate power. You are the mayor of Brașov. Make it bigger, make a capital, take Bucharest. Yeah. 3 things that you will do immediately, not having money, not having support of the people, that will really can make a difference in how people will approach it. 3 things, because you said it's so simple, we don't need data, you don't need to do anything, so please give me the 3 magic powers. Not big investments, just easy things,
Yeah,
and
okay.
political commitment.
The 3 things. So in Brașov, I think the first thing I would do is take at least 1, if not more, lanes of traffic from the circular roads, from almost all of the roads in the city, and narrow them down and add more bicycle pedestrian infrastructure. In Bucharest, it's hard to know where to start.
Speed limit,
Yeah,
for example.
So, well, certainly the speed limits are terrifying. This may be a national issue, but it's uncomfortable seeing pedestrian crossings with no signal, where you just have to rely on drivers to stop. That has not been good in the U.S. I don't know what the experience is here. So I think I would try to put in more pedestrian signals where cars have to stop. You don't have to hope that they will stop. Faith is not a good road safety strategy. So that would be another thing. And then I think probably the connections between public transport and cycling and walking would be best. Probably the increasing the frequency and the regularity of the transit system would be another huge benefit to cycling.
Thank you so much. I believe we talked to Selton about the social, economical, and environmental benefits cycling really can contribute to the cities. And I think this is a very important topic, because if you look at the World Health Organization study, which is made with a heat instrument, it's a project that you can really use as an instrument. It's a heat instrument of the WHO, where you can really calculate the social economical benefits of investment in cycling, translated in social economical benefits for your own city. And right now at European level we have more than 2,000 euros per inhabitants on European level as benefit of the existing cycling for the community. Means environment, means health impact, and like this. But I'm very eager to know what Reper 21 or Reper 21, as we say it in Romania, is doing. And Ana Maria Marinescu Pălăduș has a very nice project she would like to present, and where we go back from where we started, in fact, in this panel about to people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Raluca. For the sake of the language, I will pass to Romanian, if it's okay for everyone, because we won't have too much the occasion to listen to Romanian during this day. Deci o să vorbesc în limba română și rup puțin în felul acesta din punct de vedere cultural discursurile de astăzi și cred că împreună cu Raluca mă bucur să și echilibrăm puțin echilibrul de gen al panelurilor. Deci bună ziua tuturor, numele meu este Ana Maria, este prima oară când sunt la acest forum, care este o surpriză foarte plăcută. Se întâmplă așa ceva în România și că e o participare foarte mare din partea autorităților locale, instituțiilor internaționale, în general în evenimentele acestea despre sustenabilitate, dezvoltare durabilă, mediul de afaceri este cam omniprezent și foarte, foarte acaparator. Nu este cazul aici, ceea ce mă bucură foarte mult. În cele câteva minute care o să urmeze, o să încerc să aduc așa o provocare, să fac un focus, pentru că antevorbitorii mei, atât Ivo cât și Andy, au vorbit de provocările pe care le are mobilitatea urbană în multiple direcții. Eu o să mă opresc asupra uneia și anume asupra celei climatice. În primul rând pentru că meseria mea de bază este cea de lucru pe chestiuni de schimbări climatice, sunt activist de mediu și schimbări climatice de 17 ani, lucrez în societatea civilă din România, din această perspectivă, pe foarte multe programe educaționale și în același timp de tot atât de mulți ani lucrez și în domeniul transportului public pentru o asociație internațională, Calypso, care este o asociație de transportatori publici și practic astăzi o să încerc să aduc împreună așa aceste două subiecte, purtând aceste două pălării. E important să știm ce ochelari purtăm când prezentăm ceva. Și mai port și o a treia pălărie pe care o să o aduc astăzi în discurs. Sunt cetățean, locuiesc în București, nu este vina mea, așa s-a întâmplat bun, și sunt și mamă, sunt foarte mare utilizatoare a mobilității durabile, să zic așa. Mă laud că în ultimii 13-14 ani de când am mașină personală, fără de care nu prea avem cum, am vreo 40.000 de kilometri parcurși, ceea ce totuși este bine, zic eu. Folosesc extrem de mult mersul pe jos în București, folosesc bicicleta și mai mult de atât, iar atunci când nu pot să folosesc una sau alta, folosesc transportul public în comun, nu scot mașina în oraș. Ei, ce vreau să vă zic, și de aici a pornit puțin și reflexia asupra acestor teme, în ultima vară mai ales, da, dar nu doar atât, și în verile trecute, mi-a fost din ce în ce mai greu la mine în oraș să folosesc aceste moduri de transport. Și motivul este unul cât se poate de intuitiv și de simplu. Mi-a fost foarte cald și foarte inconfortabil în multe momente ale zilei să merg pe jos, să-mi scot bicicleta sau să mă duc într-un autobuz în care nu era aer condiționat. Erau zile în care era imposibil. Bun. Și în cele ce urmează o să ne concentrăm puțin pe o chestiune retrospectivă, pe gândirea retrospectivă pentru a înțelege puțin ce înseamnă schimbările climatice și de ce sunt atât de importante, că tot vorbim de ele. O să fie așa un focus puțin educațional, dar sper că îmi permite să fac această mică divagație, 2-3 minute. O să vedem apoi cum impactează acest lucru mobilitatea urbană și spre final o să încerc să fiu și destul de optimistă, să deschid niște piste de acțiune. Bun. Ce v-am spus mai devreme, dacă ar fi să-l proiectăm într-o hartă, că mi-a fost foarte greu în această vară să merg pe jos în orașul meu, cred că nu este doar în București, cred că este în cea mai mare parte a lumii, da? Asta este o hartă a NASA care ne arată cum a arătat luna iulie la nivel global în întreaga lume. După cum vă dați seama, are mult roșu, iar roșu nu prea neapărat bine. Da? Pentru că în roșu sunt înregistrate anomaliile de temperaturi comparativ cu media din ultimele decenii. Și vedeți că avem foarte multe anomalii, da? Și avem multe anomalii la noi în Europa, da? Inclusiv la noi în țară. Am avut, de altfel, probabil că știți, cea mai călduroasă lună iulie din toată istoria umanității. Da? Bun. Și dacă ar fi să extindem puțin lucrul acesta, asta e un alt fel de hartă în cifre, nu e cea mai sexy, dar e o hartă, tot de a NASA, ca să nu avem discuții despre credibilitate, despre cum arată lumea noastră în prezent datorită evoluțiilor din ultimele decenii. Dacă ne gândim la lumea noastră ca fiind compusă din societatea umană, din ecosisteme, da? Și din clima care guvernează toate aceste procese, ce vedem aici este cum au evoluat ecosistemele și clima datorită impactului acțiunii umane. Da? Nu stăm neapărat bine, nu o să intru acum în detalii, nu vă faceți griji, mai ales că urmează masa, nu intru în detaliile fiecarei cifre, o să fac un foarte mic focus pe cea din centru, care ne arată cum a crescut temperatura globală în ultimul timp. A crescut cu 1,1 grade. Ni se poate părea super puțin. Azi dimineața am fost să alerg puțin în Brașov, înainte să începem această întâlnire, și erau 8 grade afară, acum sunt, cred că 16-17. Mult mai mult decât 1 grad. De aici este vorba de vreme. Când vorbim de climă, vorbim de evoluții în timp, pe perioade mari, ale temperaturilor medii globale. Bun, la noi au crescut cu 1,1 grade și o să fac un mic focus înainte de a trece mai departe de ce înseamnă această temperatură. Bun, în primul rând un mic focus la nivel de timp, pentru că putem să avem impresia că lucrurile acestea se întâmplă de când lumea. Din păcate, nu. Ce v-am arătat în tabelul anterior, și aici este doar o evoluție a temperaturilor medii globale, se întâmplă probabil cam de când majoritatea dintre noi ne-am născut. Da? Sau se întâmplă cu o intensitate foarte mare. Dacă vă uitați pe acest tabel, ne arată cum au evoluat temperaturile medii globale din 1880 cam până post-2020. Da? Deci vorbim de niște evoluții care au puțin mai mult de un secol și ele s-au accelerat și au luat-o chiar razna de prin anii 50. Da? Deci de când o parte dintre noi care suntem aici ne-am născut. Deci lucrurile astea se întâmplă la scara umanității de acum o secundă. Bun. Putem considera că nu sunt neapărat extrem de importante. Da? Simțim deja niște efecte, dar poate să nu fie neapărat grav. Aici am pus o hartă care arată cum arăta continentul nostru la ultima perioadă glaciară, care a fost acum 12-18.000 de ani, da? Înainte să trecem în Holocen. După cum vedeți, colegii din statele nordice nu duceau prea bine, de fapt nu prea locuiau pe acolo. Este o hartă a Europei care ne arată un continent care nu are nimic de-a face cu ceea ce este continentul nostru astăzi. Și vă arăt, pentru că e bine să știm retrospectiv, că diferența între lumea de atunci, diferența temperaturilor medii globale, și lumea pe care o trăim acum este în medie de 5 grade Celsius. 5 grade Celsius au făcut ca continentul european să treacă de la harta pe care o vedeți acolo la harta pe care o avem astăzi aici. Și de ce vă spun lucrurile acestea? Pentru că noi deja în câteva zeci de ani am luat 1,1 grade ca temperatură medie globală în plus. Da? În Europa nițel mai mult, că nu luăm peste tot la fel. Estimările cele mai, aș vrea să zic, pesimiste, dar din păcate devin realiste, ale IPCC-ului, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, ne arată că la orizontul 2100 riscăm să avem între 3 și 5 grade medii în plus față de perioada preindustrială. Perioada preindustrială, pentru că de atunci am început să consumăm în principal combustibili fosili, da? Care sunt responsabili pentru ceea ce se întâmplă acum. Deci trăim într-o perioadă absolut istorică, în care, așa cum spuneau și colegii mei, rapiditatea cu care se întâmplă lucrurile este una absolut de neimaginat. Și o să fie de neimaginat atât pentru noi care suntem aici, mai ales și pentru cei care vor veni. Dar vă asigur că și în ce ne mai rămâne și nouă de trăit, o să experimentăm lucruri extrem de provocatoare. Bun. Și lucrurile acestea se reflectă enorm la nivel de orașe. La fel, lucrul acesta nu e neapărat foarte vechi cunoscut. Acum 13-14 ani lucram cu Agenția Internațională de Energie în cadrul unui studiu când am încercat pentru prima oară să cuantificăm care-i treaba în orașe legat de schimbările climatice. Câtă energie consumă, cât dioxid de carbon consumă, cât sunt de expuse schimbărilor climatice. Până acum 14-15 ani lucrurile acestea nu erau cunoscute. Da? Deci ne vorbim de niște lucruri care sunt extrem de recente, da? Care ne vor impacta extrem de mult și e bine să le avem un vizor pentru lucrurile pe care le construim. Aici am pus două imagini în stânga ca să înțelegeți de ce mi-a fost greu pe timp de vară să mă plimb cu bicicleta sau pe jos în București. Este harta în partea stângă a cartierului unde locuiesc. Zonele verzi sunt evident zone este o hartă de căldură, da? Care arată temperatura medie în fiecare cartier. Zonele cu verde sunt zone care sunt relativ plăcute, au 19-20 de grade în medie pentru că sunt zone extrem de vegetalizate. Acolo unde vedeți culori roșii care se duc chiar spre negru, sunt zone care sunt constau în beton. Da? Beton, chiar și tartan, care absorb căldura și care apoi o emit. Bun, multe orașe sunt confruntate cu aceste fenomene, inclusiv cu cele de insulă urbană, de căldură. Unele dintre ele, și sunt convinsă că aici am pus doar un exemplu, sunt multe, și în Europa au început să se miște și la noi în țară lucrurile acestea, dar un raport care m-a frapat, care a apărut acum câteva luni, este acel al primăriei Paris, care își pregătește strategia de supraviețuire a orașului la 50 de grade și nu la orizontul 2100, ci asta pentru următorii ani și decenii care vor veni, pentru că știu sigur că vor avea, printre altele, astfel de temperaturi. Bun, și problema se pune, că nu o să mai continui în această direcție de climă, dar problema se pune cum impactează aceste evoluții, în special cele climatice despre care discutăm acum, cum impactează mobilitatea urbană. De exemplu, în planul Paris la 50 de grade, mobilitatea urbană este un sector absolut cheie în cadrul strategiei, da? Pe de o parte pentru că mobilitatea și transportul urban, public, reprezintă adevărate sisteme de circulație în orașe, da? Dar și pentru că vor fi extrem de impactate și că de modul în care ele se pregătesc depinde cât de bine sau cât de rău o va duce un oraș. Da? Bun. Și ce poate face sectorul mobilității urbane legat de acest subiect? Păi, pe de o parte, și cum am auzit foarte mult în aceste zile, se pune problema, pe de o parte, de mitigare, da? Cum spunem în engleză, mitigation, să reducem impactul și mobilității și al transportului asupra mediului la nivel general și asupra schimbărilor climatice în mod particular. Primul lucru pe care putem să-l facem, și aici zic un lucru cunoscut de toată lumea, este să descurajăm folosirea mașinii personale, mai ales a vehiculelor termice. Da? Dar o a doua chestiune pe care o putem face, sau măcar să intrăm pe niște piste de reflexie și care a fost atinsă puțin în aceste zile aici, este legat și de impactul pe care toate soluțiile de digitalizare și toate vehiculele digitalizate și hiperconectate, care sunt foarte promovate în cadrul mobilității durabile, ce impact de mediu și climatic au acestea. E și un impact de mediu pe care colegul meu l-a adresat mai devreme, pentru că sunt multe bazate pe resurse, pe metale rare, da? Și nu sunt neapărat ușor de reciclat, da? Dar este și un impact de energie foarte mare. De altfel, la nivel global, sectorul digitalizării aproape că l-a atins pe cel al aviației din punct de vedere al emisiilor de dioxid de carbon. Da? Ori noi, în transport și în mobilitate, mizăm enorm pe digitalizare. E foarte bine că o facem, că poate, într-adevăr, eficientiza multe procese, da? Multe fluxuri. În același timp, este bine să avem ca și criteriu de selecție, când ne decidem dacă mergem spre un scooter electric sau pe un scooter nemotorizat, da? Poate să ne uităm și la amprenta de carbon și la consumul de energie, pentru că în multe cazuri poate să facă o diferență foarte mare. Bun. Și al doilea pilon, care este de departe cel mai interesant, dar foarte provocator, este adaptarea și reziliența climatică a sectorului mobilității urbane. Pentru că, așa cum spuneam, va fi foarte, foarte impactat. Reziliența înseamnă, dacă încasăm un șoc, da? De exemplu, o să avem 5 zile cu 50 de grade, cât de mult poate sistemul mobilității urbane să-și mențină funcțiile și să asigure transportul de călători în cadrul orașului. Bun. Și aici Paradoxal, prima soluție tot aceasta este, și anume să încercăm să limităm vehiculele termice, da? Pentru că ele, pe lângă faptul că consumă foarte multă energie, motoarele emană foarte, foarte multă căldură. Dacă se întâmplă să folosiți bicicleta și sunteți lângă 4 mașini staționate care merg, da? O să simțiți o temperatură mai ridicată decât în alte zone. Da. Bun, apoi sunt alte piste interesante de explorat. De exemplu, și de fapt cel mai important este cum putem să le permitem pietonilor, cicliștilor să poată să circule la 50 de grade în oraș. Există soluții prin care putem să facem lucrul acesta? Păi există. Deja, în primul rând, trebuie să le construim infrastructură, da? Dar, în al doilea rând, este bine să ne gândim ca infrastructura pe care o facem să poată să le permită să folosească în caz de condiții meteo deosebite. Asta înseamnă că dacă, de exemplu, facem piste de biciclete, e bine să nu punem neapărat tartan negru pe jos, pentru că absoarbe soarele. Putem să ne gândim, de exemplu, la materiale de construcții deschise la culoare, care reflectă lumina soarelui înapoi, care pot să fie și poroase și care absorb precipitațiile, astfel încât dacă avem ploi foarte intense, cum se întâmplă din ce în ce mai des, tot datorită schimbărilor climatice, să putem să absorbim. Putem să ne gândim și ar trebui să ne gândim, să vegetalizăm cât de mult putem și să plantăm copaci în jurul acestor piste de biciclete sau în zonele pietonale, pentru că ați văzut chiar mai devreme, într-o primă prezentare, diferențele de temperatură într-un oraș, într-o zonă vegetalizată și cu umbră și una expusă soarelui pot să ajungă chiar și la 15-20 de grade. Da? Deci este bine să construim infrastructură pentru mobilitatea durabilă, este foarte bine să încercăm să o construim însă și cât se poate de rezilient, pentru că o să avem contexte în care, mai ales ca aleși locali, va trebui să le permitem cetățenilor să se deplaseze la astfel de temperaturi. Și o să închei cu o ultimă idee, pentru că am avut așa un discurs poate puțin mai alarmist, dar nu este neapărat cazul de el. Este clar că trăim într-o criză, da? Într-o situație de criză și climatică, și a biodiversității, a energiei, politică, e o policriză. Da? Dar acolo unde există criză, ne învață colegii din Asia, există și oportunitate de acțiune, da? De regândire a modului în care facem lucruri, a comportamentelor noastre și așa mai departe. Și încerc așa să închei pe un ton cât de cât optimist, vă arăt 2-3 exemple de lucruri pe care eu și colegii mei le facem într-un oraș mic din sudul țării, în Turnul Măgurele, pe malul Dunării, un oraș, cum îi spun englezii, shrinking, care se contractă, un oraș în care utilizarea mașinii personale a luat o razna în ultimii ani, deși este un oraș extrem de mic, în care primăria se chinuie să construiască piste de biciclete, să propună tot felul de soluții de mers pe jos, dar oamenii nu le folosesc încă pentru că li se par retrograde. Da? Bun. Și faptul că avem această provocare, această criză, să zic așa, în față climatică, de care primăria, autoritatea locală este foarte conștientă și deschisă către societatea civilă, am început să testăm diverse piste de lucru împreună cu primăria, prin care să încercăm să le arătăm cetățenilor cât de bine este să meargă pe jos, să folosească bicicletele, în ideea în care acest lucru aduce convivialitate în oraș, deschide autoritatea locală spre cetățeni și așa mai departe. Și, de exemplu, organizăm periodic plimbări în oraș și în afara orașului, le-am numit Ride My Turnu, în care cetățeni de toate vârstele, nu doar adolescenți, se întâlnesc și explorează împrejurimile orașului, mai ales pe cele culturale, în ieșiri de 2-3 ore. Și așa e destul de impresionant când în oraș se văd, 100 de biciclete care merg față de, un cetățean răzleț care își scoate bicicleta din când în când. Tot împreună cu primăria am făcut un concurs de idei pentru cetățeni legat de cum putem să încurajăm transportul ecologic în oraș, iar pe 18 septembrie o să organizăm o primă dezbatere și o primă inițiativă de acest fel, un forum de mobilitate durabilă în care încercăm să discutăm, mai ales la nivel local, de ce putem să facem să încurajăm transportul și mobilitatea durabilă, dar mai ales pe cea foarte rezilientă. Bun, și cred că cu aceste gânduri îmi opresc prezentarea înainte de a fi prea târziu și vă mulțumesc pentru atenție.
Mulțumesc tare mult, Ana Maria. Te invit să stai jos și să vorbim puțin în continuare despre oportunitate și despre acest aspect de cum reușim, de fapt, să vorbim cu cetățenii și în același timp să fim conștienți că cetățeanul nu e doar biciclistul sau cel care, sau mama, sau și avem și oameni în vârstă, avem și oameni cu dizabilități pe care vrem să-i facem participanți în traiul civic. Și atunci aceste dialoguri cu grupurile țintă pe care autoritatea trebuie să le organizeze, ce ar fi important pentru ei să rețină?
În primul rând, cel puțin din experiența pe care o avem la noi în oraș, există o raportare foarte diferită a cetățenilor legate de mobilitatea durabilă. Da? Dacă, de exemplu, tinerii sau persoanele de vârstă mijlocie sunt poate mai receptivi, mai deschiși, cei de vârsta a doua, a treia sunt foarte, foarte închiși la ce înseamnă transportul pe jos, cu bicicleta, și cred că o miză importantă este să mergem către ei, să ne adresăm, pentru că ei sunt cei care folosesc cel mai puțin. Din punctul meu de vedere, cred că ajută foarte mult să le spunem cetățenilor nu doar că trebuie să facă dintr-un considerent normativ sau etic, trebuie să mergi cu bicicleta, să nu mai poluezi, trebuie să iei autobuzul. Cred că e important să avem un respect și o deschidere mai mare către ei și să le arătăm la ce contribuie dacă fac lucrurile acestea. Da? Nu înseamnă să le arătăm hărțile de la NASA. Da? Ne adaptăm puțin discursul, dar le putem vorbi despre niște provocări absolut fără precedent pe care le avem, despre faptul că și noi o să fim impactați și că în felul acesta își aduc și o contribuție la acest
Și impresionează.
Subiect. Oricum, e un drum foarte lung de parcurs, că vorbim de schimbări de comportamente. Ele se întâmplă de multe ori între nivelul de cunoaștere pe care le avem și acțiunile pe care le facem, trece un timp foarte îndelungat pentru a acționa, măcar deschide niște piste de explorare.
Și de dialog, atât cu autoritatea cât și cu ei. Îți mulțumesc tare mult! Vorbesc despre oportunități și despre cum trebuie să planificăm de la început. I'll switch again to English also in preparation of introducing our last panel speaker today, because we had Andy talking about vision and about targets. And I think that Ljubljana, it's a great city that showed that it had a vision. It's following targets. I'm very curious if you reached them or not. And what was the road to success? Because the European cities are looking to Ljubljana, also in the regard of green capital city it was having, also in regards of the culture approach into tourism and into integrating environment protection and everything. What was the vision and how did you get on that road? You take whatever fits you.
Great. Thank you very much for this introductions. Again, I will repeat my name because it is very hard to pronounce for everyone. My name is Dejan Crnek. It is hard to pronounce also for Slovenian people. And my second name means something Schwarz, black. And I was thinking to rename myself, and maybe in Belek, it means something white, so it will be easier, but nevertheless. I'm glad again, and thank you for this opportunity. We are talking today about a lot of things that all the city wants to do about the mobility in the future. Eva has a great presentation, also Andy has a great presentation, but I would like to show you where we started about the mobility with the people and what's going on from this. And Andy, it's really not easy. We are doing this from 2007 and it's really not easy. You cannot do it overnight, of course. So, okay, this is our beautiful city. We say that this is the most beautiful city in the world. I have to say that because of our mayor. If he's listen somewhere, maybe I would like just to repeat what I said in the first day and what we want to do. We want to see Ljubljana center to be our living room and surrounding our playground, and we are going towards these goals. And of course, it want to be ideal city, environment-friendly city, and as a metropolis. And by the way, for those who was here the first day, the luggage still not there. So there is some shops over there, so I can manage it. Okay, we are talking from bottom to top and top for bottom. Of course, first we want to do to be friendly for the citizens, for the people. So we have to switch our model shift to and this is one of our goals. First, pedestrian, second, bicycle, then public transportation, and the last, cars, if there will be some cars left. What we do about our living room? We said, okay, our living room have to be only for the people. And we begin to establish our eco zone, as we said, about 18 hectares. And it's funny how playing with words, eco and co, how many coexistence words you can find. You can read it here. I will not read it because you have it on the screen. And those red lines, those are all the lines, it's only for pedestrian. And those yellow lines are mixed, but mostly for pedestrian, but in some case there can also be some traffic. And we try now to extend these red lines, but I must say, because of the delivery, because there's a lot of restaurants, shops, hotels in the city center, we have an hour, like maybe somewhere else, from 6 to 10 it's allowed for delivery cars to come to this area, and only with some cars that is possible. So I will show you a few pictures, maybe how we started. On the left picture you can see this is our center, 3 bridges, and there was also traffic, no problem going out and out. And on the right side you see how it's now. This is only for pedestrian here, no cars, people are happy, can cycling, can walking, and enjoying also the tourists in our city. On the left side, upside, this is the main square in Ljubljana, which was full of, this was parking place, the biggest parking place, and the smaller part, this is now, it is free of cars. And it is a great opportunity for some kinds of events here, cultural events, sports events. We have also volleyball here. We have also concert festival of Ljubljana. And also this is a place when the president of Slovenia is shaking hands with some other politician, they come to Ljubljana. You can see our street on the right side. It's one of the streets in the city center where now was full of cars, and now is restaurants, tables outside. Down there is another square in Ljubljana, parking space before, now it's a public space also. And right down it's one of the river banks. It was also full of cars. Now it's for the people enjoying coffee, drinking, talking, and have a nice time. We began, but we have one problem. That problem was the main street, who is coming through the center from Ljubljana, which was also the main transport street for buses, for cars. And we cannot just close it because we don't have enough space to do some detour for the buses or something. So we're thinking what to do. And also Vienna was one of the cities that was our role model for several things, and they have such similar street. So we began of thinking with the Civitas Elan project. This was how it was the beginning, and with the European Week of Mobility. This is really good program of European Union, and if you are engaged in this, you get some new ideas. So first, for European Mobility Week, we closed the street and put some chairs, some tables there that people can sit. Bicycle can be there, pedestrian can be there, but no cars. This was for 1 week. But in the meantime, we have a lot of workshops with the citizens, with the stakeholders, how to move on. And then the project was done. You can see those 3 pictures, smaller pictures, how we start in 1 year, refurbish the street. And the whole idea in the end to the left side was that this will be the shared space. Shared space for the public transportation, for the pedestrian, and for the cyclist. And nobody is in advance. All are equal. So they have to learn who will give the floor for passing street or going with street to another. And we are very scared, of course. Every mayor is scared to do this. How will be? There will be an accident. The bicycle will run over the pedestrian. The bus will run over the cyclist. But I must say, from the first day, it's going very smoothly. It's still today. Everything is looking who is there. If the bus is coming, it's closer. You're waiting for the bus. If the pedestrian on the street, bus is waiting. And also, of course, the limit speed is 30 kilometers per hour. And in the right side, you see before street with cars, buses, and down there is like it looks now. I think it's a very big okay, but when you do something like this, you have to do always the parallel actions, as I said. We did, because of this, the distance for the people who was walking through the center was bigger, of course. For the elderly people, for those who are living in the center, it was suddenly there is no car. How can I bring my stuff from the shop if there is body is ill and something like that. So we are thinking, and the first and very good idea was to put electric cars in the city. It's called Cavalier. It means like gentleman. It's let's see, it's for free for the it's free. You can call it, you can wave them. I will show the picture now. It's like Cavalier. This is open, which are driving only in the summer, and it's closed. And this is also our design. This is, you know, this golf trolleys upgraded. And we put also, you see down there on the left, we put also one of this in our, let's say, Universe Clinical Center, where all the hospitals are. And that car is there available for all who needs to go from one hospital to another to be quicker there to do some exam and stuff like this. So this was one of the, and it's a great idea. It's really, and you see, it was also helping us in the pandemic time. They were driving with these cars, food to the people who cannot go out and so on. And all those drivers you can see here, they are the best drivers of the public company. They were chosen for this. They're nice, polite, and like this. Okay, the second was sharing bike system. You see, a lot of cities have this system, but our is for free. We have 10 million rides since May 2011. It's very successful, and 48 stations and also 840 bicycles now running, and it's very popular in Ljubljana. But we just don't want to have electric, because we have the Ljubljana is flat enough for people to work out. So that's now slowly is coming electric, because of course. And then we did some public opinion, and they are very satisfied. I'll show you just in case that every mayor wants to have a proof that he is on the right path, and this was one survey who show us that we are on the right path. But we have to extend this eco zone because it's too short, and the city center became very crowded. So we said, okay, let's do it. Let's do it further on the river bank. to the rear bank. There's still was with cars. You see the upper photo. There was parking space, but now it's refurbished. It's in the same size and also looks like the river bank in the city center, and it leads near the old factory, bicycle factory, who is now renewed. You see the last pictures. It will open just this month, and you see down there is no car anymore. There's still place for the coffee shops and coffees, and also another. This is a sugar factory, a little further of this, and also refurbished. There are a lot of cultural events going there, so we want people to walk outside the city center, which is near or around the city hall, around a little bit outside, and this will happen with this refurbished. So your mobility and urbanism is hand to hand, I think, in the city center. Okay, this is some comparison with the judging criteria. This is also more for the information if the city is in the right way. And what's next? We have to refurbish the complete the central market. It will be underground garage because we want to put all the cars down, because cars will always be. You saw the picture Evo show with a beautiful car. It will be, the cars will be, they will not vanish. So we have to do this. And then another cultural object for the youth. It's near those Cukrarna, those I will show you before, near the riverbank. And I want to show you, of course, new lines. There's go to this riverbanks only for pedestrian and cyclists, like all. But I want to show you this before I show you a movie. This is our river around. But now those two streams are not connected. We will now disconnect this, and after this, there will be a public transportation. It will be boats like many cities has, but we also will have boats. Will be like public transportation. But we will also have here 3 water plants. But to do this, we have to be very carefully about the life in the river. So we have to do some detour with some channels for them that they can swim, fish. And I show you this picture of this crabs here. Is why? Because we cannot do we cannot do this anytime we want. We can do when they are maybe are sleeping, maybe are doing. And this protected crabs is something special because we cannot disturb him while he making love. But what is the problem with the crabs? He's making love all the year. So we will find a way to do this. So this is one of the thinking how to do even more. There will be boats, will be wooden boats with the panels for electricity. No others can be in our river. And I have 4 minutes. For the last, I'm preparing again one film for you. So this will be the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We should play the movie now, no? A movie should come. So if the technical team can help us to play the movie. And the sound is missing. Can we please check the sound?
In vse ali več, kar premorejo ostale evropske prestolnice. Danes sem dom in zatočišče mnogim, ki znamo živeti skupaj in hkrati spoštovati našo različnost. Iz nekoč speče lepotice sem se prebudila in zacvetela. Danes sem polna dogajanja, kjer lahko vsakdo razvija svoje talente ter izpolni osebne in karierne cilje. Mnogi izmed 2400 izvedenih manjših ali večjih projektov ter velike spremembe so danes samoumevni in zdi se, kot da so tukaj od zmeraj. Včasih je enostavno pozabiti, da sem bila nekoč povsem drugačna. Diham s polnimi pljuči, saj sem bogatejša za 40 000 novih dreves in 100 hektarjev novih zelenih površin. Višjo kakovost življenja zagotavljam z novo zgrajeno in prenovljeno komunalno ter prometno infrastrukturo, novimi mestnimi stanovanji ter kakovostno urejenimi javnimi prostori. Ponosna sem na prenovljene vrtce in šole, ki so zdaj otrokom še prijaznejši, ter kulturne, športne, zdravstvene in ostale pridobitve, ki se uspešno polnijo z raznolikimi družbeno-razvojnimi vsebinami. Naziv Zelena prestolnica Evrope leta 2016 me je ponesel še višje. Mnogim sem za vzor. Postala sem prepoznavnejša, s čimer sem zvišala pričakovanja meščank in meščanov. Tako je tudi prav, saj lahko le skupaj uspešno skrbimo, da še naprej ostanem zeleni dragulj sredi Evrope. V letu 2021 sem se zavihtela na vrh lestvice najboljših zelenih prestolnic v Evropi in v letu 2022 prejela naziv najboljše destinacije Evrope, ki so mi ga z glasovanjem namenili popotniki z vsega sveta. S tem se res rada pohvalim. Pogosto me sprašujejo, če se bom še razvijala in spreminjala. Seveda, na bolje. Pri tem bom sledila viziji trajnostnega razvoja in cilju, da vam vsem skupaj še naprej zagotovim zeleno in zdravo, varno in odprto, prijazno in solidarno okolje. Tudi za generacije, ki bodo z menoj živele v prihodnje. Tudi te bodo ljubljene, tako kot sva danes jaz in ti. Tvoja Ljubljana.
You can smile, you can be happy about it. What I love about it, Ljubljana has a feminine voice, so this I heard very good out. I would like to ask you which have been your biggest 3 challenges in this 15 years of the vision, and for you as a vice mayor, what was the most difficult part?
I must say that because there's a lot of mayors here, we know that every move we make, it's a challenge, and it's not over. Whatever you did, if you did, we did 2,000 projects, very good projects, but it's still people who needs every day to persuade that something is not good. So, I mean, the biggest challenge is to talk to people and to tell them that this what we are doing is really good and it will be better for their lives. This is the biggest challenge. And maybe 3 challenges. We are now, you were so just a frame, we are now doing the new swimming pool, Olympic swimming pool, which Ljubljana doesn't have covered swimming pool, Olympic swimming. And the first tender was in 2001. It means we need 22 years to overcome all the, it's not only the people, it's all the some groups, architects, environmental, you have to persuade. And this, that you are so, how to say, that you are so for one project with your heart, and that you can persuade people with your energy. This is the hardest thing, I think.
I don't think it's hard for you, because if you really have the vision and you believe in it, I think you can also transmit it very well. But I think another challenge is not also only talking to the people, is also be ahead on what is coming. And especially when we are do city planning, it's important to understand what are the trends. And if I'm looking to mobility patterns and cycling patterns, what I see, and I saw it also in a different conference with different other experts, is it's on the bike lane, it's getting much faster with due to the electric bike. It's getting much more crowdier to all the mobility stairs from the cargo bikes and logistics, which also goes. So in fact, the cities start and need to think the bike lane has to be much wider and also more protected. Also for climate, but also in terms of other vehicle. The project that you have in Ljubljana is wonderful, where people just coexist in an ecosystem. But the reality in other countries, unfortunately, it's not this. And the question is, how can mayors be prepared and think ahead 20 years what will be the modal shifts, not only what I would like in terms of environment, of economics for my city, because I'm sure that the statistics that you are having in terms of the small businesses in the pedestrian areas that had at least 20% increase in incomes, if not more, because this is a European statistic that we see. But how can you prepare yourself as a mayor, and which are the networks that you are going to ask for advice? And I will start with you, and then I would like to go to the rest of the specialists, and afterwards also to some closing notes.
Yeah, it's really because when you do something or did something, you not expect everything. But, you know, let's say in Denmark, they have very wide bicycle lanes, but the bicycle, the people who is riding this bicycle became very aggressive. Really, they have problem now with this, and they try to solve now this problem. How to, because one who is not so fast on the bike, it's crowded, and you know, and they're really impatient. So, and nobody thought about this when they said, okay, we will wider, we will put out the cars, and so. For the mayor, as I said, or the municipality, is really you try to see the all outcomes, but you never can predict it everything. So it is hard. It is hard question. But as we said, we have guidelines for European European level. We have guidelines for the organization, like you are also, and we try to somehow follow this guidelines and adapt for our city and see what will happen.
Ivo, I'm going to you as policies, co-creating policies on European level. How important is stakeholder dialogue, not only with the civil society, but also with the industry?
Very important. I was trying also to answer the question you
please.
put to Dejan, but no, it's very important. I think we really are in a position also. I think you notice that also when you look at your economy here in this country. We're really at a point where decisions have to be taken, where things are changing, where the competition, the global competition, is much more present in every people's lives. So the competition with China and the US, so it's really a moment where we as cities and people working with cities who are big buyers of technologies and solutions, who have to make clear to the industry what will be in our streets, what will be what we need in terms of technologies now, but also in the future. Now I come back to the question you put to Dejan. I read somewhere the last days that children that are born now will live beyond 2100. So we have our mindset on 2030, 2050, but the people who are born now, they will normally, hopefully, will live well beyond 2100. And that's the deadlines we also see in the documents on climate change. And so the time window is there. So but then again, it's also, and I understand Dejan in this, it's also, we should not have a paralysis of analysis. So the idea that if you overthink, you don't experiment, you don't make a vibrant city, a city that lives and that has shown in the past to be able to change and to evolve. So a great band once said, it's better to regret something you have done than to regret something you haven't done. So also don't forget to experiment and
To have some courage.
yeah, also indeed, yeah.
Thank you so much. I go to Anna Maria and ask her, how can we engage correctly the civil society to be really addressing the correct questions and also representing the civil society per se, but talking in a constructive way with the authorities and be a partner.
I guess it depends a lot on the size of the city, at least in Romania. I mean, we have large cities like Bucharest, Cluj, Sibiu, etc., where you have a very vast civil society that you just need to map and to invite them to conversations. For example, ourselves, when we are asked by the Ministry of Environment or by I don't know what other actors to come and have a dialogue with them, we are very open, and this is the case of the majority of my colleagues. But in small cities, I don't even speak about the rural areas, it's a huge challenge to involve civil society because you don't have it over there, at least in Romania, and I'm sure that in other parts of Europe it's the same. So what we are doing is that we are trying to involve in this type of cities, to go towards the schools and the teachers, that in a way they represent civil society in the sense that they have a broader societal perspective, and to build projects and actions and to get them on board for the projects of the city hall. And so this is one recommendation, to try to work with the schools, because in a lot of communities the schools are the only institutions besides the public authorities who are still in place and doing their job. I'm referring to shrinking cities. And another remark referring to what you asked our colleague, we are also encouraging a lot, because we are living in such a difficult modelizing world, full of crises. It's very difficult to understand what the future will bring. We have many futures in front of us, if we can say this. And for example, we are working a lot to develop the prospective thinking and working in prospective workshops, where we ask the city halls to gather as diverse as possible representatives of the community in order to create together a vision of how the future may look like. I mean, biologists, because in any community you can find teachers that know biology, teachers who, for example, can explain energy issues, geography teachers that know a bit how the climate works. So irrespective of the community where you are, you can find some local resources that you can get engaged and have a dialogue with them to understand a bit better what are the stakes, and the challenges, and to try to see how you can navigate and not to lose yourself.
And navigation is the terms I'm going to end you to, and to say, in fact, the US, if you look at this, we are not so far away in terms of mentality. Also, Romania are car-driven till now. Hopefully, we will change this. It's easier for us because we are forced by the European Union and being compliant to everything. What will be the 3 takeaways that you can say that will change American mentalities to go into a more bike-friendly and sustainable transportation mode?
Number one is coming to places and seeing an alternative reality, believing that something is different from what they see in front of them in U.S. cities today. I would say the second thing goes back to a conversation about justice and equity that we were having in the earlier session. The U.S. needs to understand transport as a basic civic human right, and it is not available equally to all Americans at the moment, and we are just beginning to talk about equity and safety and issues that will change the conversation, so I hope that will continue. Third thing, I'm going to dodge the question and just say that I don't believe this transition is easy. The technical answers are there, the funding is there, the need is there. it is the politics, as one of our questioners remarked earlier, it is the politics that is the most difficult and most complex to overcome, because we know what to do. We are just paralyzed and unable to do it in many situations. So I hope, part of the reason, honestly, part of the reason I'm here is to restore the belief that we can change in the US, and maybe in as ecological way as possible. We need to share that message with more Americans.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, our time is running out, but I would not like to leave our people living without making understand it's not only healthy and nice to cycle around, and it's not only good for the environment, for our own health, it's really economical. There are more than 6 million workplaces that has to be built in the next 3 years in Europe, only in the bike industry, with all the services around concluded. So this is an opportunity as big for a city to say, I would like to be an innovation hub. I would like to really promote this and also take the economical advantages out of it. It is bigger and higher and more speedier than we think about. And it's not only the panacea. 10% of the European transport budget is the aim of ECF and CIE to get for cycling and cycling industry for the cities. In Romania, we have through the PNRR, so I'll try and take it very easy for you, 120 million euros available for bike infrastructure. Just take it, make it, and then don't forget next year is an election year. So take advantage of it and make more bike lanes. And of course, public transport and pedestrian are on also our list of things to do. Let your car sometimes at home and enjoy this lunch. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lian.
Mulțumesc și eu, mulțumesc Raluca. Thank you, dear guests. 30 minutes for lunch, do you think it's enough? So at 14:45, start the new panel? Let's try to do this, okay? So at la 14:45, at 2:45 p.m., let's meet back for the other panel. If you are not here, we will be late another 5 or 10 minutes, I guess, but let's try to do that. Thank you so much. Poftă bună!